Hey guys, so we're going to look at laws of the past today. Most of you did great on your Unit 1 test yesterday. We may do some review or some other things with just some of those concepts, so you'll see those terms again. But laws of the past, because we're moving into the colonies and what all influences the founding fathers as they make our documents. So some of this will be a review from what you heard in world history. Some of you may not remember, or we left school in the spring and you never quite made it here. And so anyway, how it rolls, open up the notes that this fits with, and I'm going to go through these here, and you can open these notes in another window also without me talking over them. I've provided both for you. Let's see. Hammurabi's Code is filled in on your notes, but I want you to remember it's an ancient code of laws written by the king of Babylon. It's our first written record of laws. You're going to see some of those laws in effect as we look throughout history. These are very strict, though. It's the eye for an eye concept. It's also like if you talk back to your parents, your tongue could be cut out. If you eavesdrop and you're a servant on someone wealthier's conversation, you could lose your ear. If you ever watched Aladdin and he was going to steal bread and they were going to cut off his hand or an apple or something, I don't remember, it's a long time since Aladdin. But stealing, you could lose your hand. So Hammurabi's Code are very literal, but the wealthier you are, the less punishment you have. Maybe you just have to pay back money, but the lower class had to suffer more of a severe punishment. However, these were posted all over the cities and towns so that everyone knew exactly what the rules were. Then we come to the 10 Commandments. You'll see on the notes there are different coloring because the one is giving you like the definition, what you need for the notes, and the other is the influence on America. So the color in between is just a little extra explanation. I'm trying to get you to work on summarizing. So summary would be best other than verbatim or exactly what I have. But the 10 Commandments are laws handed down to the Israelites by Moses. They came from God on Mount Sinai, so the Israelites have just left Egypt after the 10 plagues, and they go to Mount Sinai, and God tells Moses to come up to the mountain, and I will give you laws. The 10 Commandments are not the whole law that the Israelites were given, but they are the major part that is passed down. The first couple are about not having any other gods or creating an idol, keeping the Sabbath, Sunday holy, honoring your father and mother so that your days may be long. And then it goes into do not murder, do not steal, do not covet other people's stuff, do not lie, do not commit adultery. Those aren't in exact order, but those are what they go into. So those are specifics, and obviously we're going to take a lot from those commandments to put into our own laws as we make them about lying and, stealing and property ownership rights, even though they don't say thou shalt not steal. Obviously, you can't take someone else's property. The Justinian Code is then going to come along. It's going to be Roman time period. These will also be posted all over the Roman Empire. So he's going to take all the laws and decide what's best and put them together. So this is a good thing because the empire is very large. They're going to take parts from every different little place and find the laws that are the most important. There will still be a tremendous amount of laws, but this will help us to kind of sort through what's most important and have the whole empire under certain laws. So it wasn't like go to one city and this is a rule and go to another city, this is a rule. So this is another reason this is important. The Magna Carta, otherwise known as the Great Charter, is signed in 1215. Bad King John, if you had Miss Nash or maybe Miss Brazel watches it too, does a little video about Bad King John. Pretty much the nobles chase him around until he signs the Magna Carta, giving the nobles rights and powers more than the king pretty much, or that he has to get permission. So this will establish a precedent, meaning a previous item, and it will give the people more power and less power to the kings of England. He, of course, later tries to fight it, but it's too late. He has signed it, and the nobles kind of win this round. Parliament is then developed. So we did a whole reading on Actively Learn about Parliament, and if you didn't, you need to go into Actively Learn and do the reading. The major difference in Parliament and the United States Congress, which is what it asks, they're both legislative bodies, which means they both make laws. Parliament, however, chooses its executive, Like we have a president, they choose as their prime minister from the parliament itself. So those two branches are not separate, they're together. Whereas our Congress is one branch and our executive is another. They get elected at different times. You cannot serve in both. So Parliament will be the rulemaking body for England. It will also influence us as we decide we need a legislative body in the United States when we develop. The Prime Minister is the executive in England. So even though they have a king or a queen, the monarchy doesn't really hold power nowadays. They're there as a figurehead. They look good. They wave. People love the royal family, but that is not their job to rule the country anymore. And so remember, like I said, Prime Minister is a part of the legislative branch, and whereas in the United States, our executive is separate from the legislative. So the legislator, their main job is to make laws. So when we do this later, it will be LML, legislative makes laws. They do not get to do other things. The president doesn't make laws. He does sign them. That's a check and balance kind of issue that we'll get into. So we have a separation of powers, 3 major branches. These come from ideas of Montesquieu, who will be in the notes tomorrow. So we have these laws that help, and then we have political philosophers that help, and the philosophers will be in tomorrow. But we want separate branches. We want no one group to have too much power. That would go bad, I think, as we can all see, as everyone's fighting about stuff now, and no one branch has all the power. The English Bill of Rights come around in 1689. It gives more liberties to the English people. It gives them the ability to have, I believe, a trial by jury, or even just a trial. They weren't always tried prior to this. They would just be tossed in prison and everything else. So this will be the first step in giving the English people certain rights and limiting the power of the government. And we get our idea for the Bill of Rights, which are the first 10 amendments in the Constitution, from this. And it comes from this document. So things we like about the Constitution and the amendments, the Bill of Rights gives you the right to privacy, the right to freedom of speech and press and religion. So a lot of these will be pulled from the English Bill of Rights. Glorious Revolution is important because it's the first time the monarchy is overthrown without a battle. So it's called glorious. It was bloodless revolution. They told the one king, you got to go. And he said, okay. And he left, and they put William and Mary in charge. So this is where they decide in America that limiting the power of government from this, we weren't even major colonies at this time. But from this, the Founding Fathers pulled the idea of limiting the power of the monarch, giving more power to the Parliament, which would soon be our Congress in the U.S., to the people. Common law is a legal system in which all judicial decisions are based on precedent or a prior decision. So a judge, if you show up in front of a judge, they are going to base their case decision on a prior case. They're not going to say, oh, you stole this car and I'm going to give you 10 years, but this other guy steals the same kind of car and I'm going to give him 5. They're going to hold other things in option, but all things being equal, they're supposed to base their law and what they're ruling on a prior case and a prior ruling. So common law kind of is basing things on precedent or the prior decision already having been made. Here's precedent, like we just talked about, dealing with the previous decision, which is important. That way judges don't get to go all willy-nilly and crazy and just make punishments up as they go based on what kind of day they're having. And that's it. So awesome. So these are your basic laws of the past. You need to go ahead and make sure you filled in your notes and submit those into Canvas. You don't turn this PowerPoint back in, or the other PowerPoint, you turn in the notes you type the information on. Please summarize. Do not just copy and paste my information into the PowerPoint, into your notes. I know what I wrote. That's not the point. The point is for you to understand these terms. So starting on Unit 2 and our government, and it'll be great. See you soon.